Hello. So, I have a few amendments to make to the story that I just told using bananagrams. So, the first amendment is that there's a little muddling up that happened with the backstory, the lore, if you will, of how the deer came to be in the mortal realm. Meanwhile, their ex was in the Fey realm. So, the reason this is because the deer person was not always a deer person. Or maybe they were. Right, they were always a deer person, but they had more powers than they used to. So, back in the day, they had the power to dimension hop to any world that they wished. The only rule of Fae is that you cannot bring someone from an outer world into Fae. But this deer person, they fell head over heels for this mortal that was from the mortal realm. And so they secretly transported this mortal to the Fey realm and hid them there in secret. And at first they were lovers, and the mortal loved the deer person and the Fey realm and everything, but eventually the mortal wanted to be let out. The mortal wanted to roam about in the rest of Fae. The mortal wanted to explore Fae, not just in secret, not just be kept as a secret and kept away almost all the time. But the deer person wouldn't allow this. The deer person said terrible things would befall me if people found out, if the Fae found out that you were here. But eventually the mortal grew tired of this, and so they walked out. They walked out into the streets of Fae. And so when other Fae saw this mortal, they were horrified, and it was quickly traced back to the deer person. And so at this point, the mortal could no longer return to the mortal realm. They wouldn't allow that. Nor did the mortal want to return. In fact, actually, they gave the mortal the choice. You can return back to the normal realm, but you can never come back if you do. The mortal decided to stay in Fae, because the mortal liked Fae more than their mortal realm. But meanwhile, they had to give a punishment to the deer, and so the punishment to the deer was, 1, stripping the deer of their power to leave, dimension hop, and number 2, to send them into the mortal realm for the rest of their immortal life. They were still immortal, but no, they were not immortal. They were mortal. Like they basically became mortal as long as they were in the mortal realm, basically. And they lost their power to dimension hop. So that was their punishment. But the deer person did not like this punishment. They didn't like it. And so what they actually did is they used their power in one final foul swoop. They used all their power up to tear space-time, effectively tearing a hole in their relationship as well with this person. It was already kind of torn because they were exposed, and then, all this happened. But now they've basically torn space-time, and now they have torn a hole that allowed them, they escaped from Fae, they left Fae, and most Fae are not brave enough to leave Fae. And so they basically found a life in the mortal realm, but they left this tear in space-time that linked the Fae realm with the mortal realm. So that used up all their immortal power. They used up all their ability. And so they still have the same punishment that they cannot dimension hop anymore through space-time, but they do have this permanent gate that has been opened from Fae to the mortal realm now. And so they can go in if they wish, however they never would, because, well, they've essentially been excommunicated anyways. They've essentially been, what's the word I'm looking for? Outcast? I feel like there's another word that I'm missing. But that's the idea. They've been outcast. So that is what left them as a deer person stuck in the mortal realm. And meanwhile, these sort of demigods that then became titans, but then became wolves, they're also in the mortal realm. They've condemned themselves to the mortal realm as well. And they just so happen to be in the same sort of vicinity, the same location, the same area. And so this deer knows of this. This deer has seen these wolves prowling about and, knows that it could be prey to them at any moment. And so that's when the deer started to learn the skill of slinging yo-yos and honed it to such an echelon that it was able to then make its grand appearance to these wolves, the wolf pack, to distract them and entertain them with these yo-yo slinging capabilities. And so, yeah, for a little while it worked. Basically initially, it worked for like 5 minutes. And the wolves were like, wow, that's very nice. We liked that. We did. But we are still hungry. So if there's nothing else that you can do or would like to say, then we're just going to go ahead and eat you. What's to stop us from eating you right now? And so that moment is exactly the moment that, yes, the deer person told them of this tear in space-time, told them of the linkage, the link between the mortal realm and the Fae realm, and where that gate, that stargate is. Yeah, so basically, huge betrayal. The deer person almost betrayed their own kind to these wolves for the sake of their own life. So that gives great purpose as to why the Dharma, the path for this deer person, is to essentially make amends with this tearing of space-time and their own family realm where they've come from. And so that's why they are drawn to this place and try to stop it from being ravaged by these wolves, which the deer person himself has condemned their people to this fate. So that's the first big amendment I wanted to make with this story. I think that really ties a lot of loose ends. And then the next amendment I wanted to make is that when the deer person gets to New York to try to travel with their magical friend to Faye, along the way, that I told of a secret passage they used to get there very quickly, to get to the Stargate. Meanwhile, the wolves are chasing them this whole time, of course. But what I didn't tell is that secret passage is essentially, it's like this tunnel. It's like this hallway, but also this tunnel. It's like this wormhole tunnel that is very magical. It's like 4-5 dimensional, but it looks like a grove. It looks like a grove of trees, but it's like this hallway of trees with trees lining either side. And it's like green grass underneath. It's very picturesque, immaculate. It's like a Garden of Eden kind of place. It's also an orchard, because an orchard is essentially what a grove is. And so as they're going through this place, the wolves chasing them, of course, there's these sort of wispy, ghost-like figures that line the trees and are almost embedded in the trees themselves, some of them. And they line this hallway. It's like these ghostly faces that you can just see the front of the face and nothing else. And they're just sort of floating, many in a line along this hallway here. And the ghostly faces, they are murmuring these words, some of them more pleasant, sort of uplifting, like, you can do this, you can beat your fear, you can make amends, and these things. And the others are saying, like, look at what you've done, you've ruined everything, these wolves have completely destroyed your people, you've abandoned your people, you have no honor left. And so they're kind of like the sort of like the angel on the shoulder and the devil on the shoulder kind of type beat type of thing. They're like prophetic voices, but they're more like quantum possibilities, or ways of thinking. Make of that what you will. But yeah, they're whispering to them along the way as they're going through this secret passage, sort of whispering their greatest fears, but also their greatest hopes and their greatest paths to salvation, peace, and harmony. So that's the second amendment that I wanted to make. And the reason I wanted to make that amendment is primarily because there were 2 words that I hadn't used yet. One of them was grove, in my lexicon of words that I had sprawled on the floor. And another one was oral. So they were orally speaking, these ghosts, to them. So then that ties that up very nicely. And then I might kind of riff just sort of off the cuff right now, just brainstorming on this third one because I didn't really think about it. But it's kind of like trying to think about how this friend, they said on one condition. I don't really know how this deer person met this magician in New York. I have no idea. I don't think that's really that important to the story. But it is kind of important, I think, what the condition was that this person made or was asking for the deer person. So the condition, I think, was essentially, and I do like what I had said in the first video. I think it actually works, which is to get this mortal person out and for you to return back to Fae. Now, I don't think that quite solves everything. I think that's more just the opinion of the magician that that's what should happen. Because maybe, okay, just thought of this. Maybe this magician is like, say, an uncle or a father or a brother to the mortal that is in Fae that was the ex-lover of the deer. There we go. That ties up that really nicely. So now we have a motive. Why was this magician asking for this person to come out of Fae? Well, because they miss them. They miss them dearly, and this deer person stole them away from them. Of course. Makes so much sense now. That really just sort of cleans it all up. It's perfect. So that's why. That's the condition. Get them out. And you go back in there. Now, I don't think this works for the Fae people, because the Fae people, first of all, the mortal didn't want to return anyways. And second of all, the Fae people, they don't want the deer person back. But luckily, it all ties up very nicely at the end. We don't even have to make any further amendments, because it all worked out, because they went in there, the wolf people were ravaging them, and they go in to chase them on the hunt. And they find the person, they get them out, which was the mission. But now the wolves are in there, and they hadn't really thought about that. Uh-oh, the wolves are in there. And they're, like, I don't know, like, maybe they lost them in some, like, alleyway in Fae or something, or some garden, or I don't know. So the wolves haven't yet made their way back out to, like, they haven't made their way back to the Stargate. And that's where that final mission comes in. We're like, okay, we're going to be brave. We're actually going to, like, get these wolf guys. And then they, like, poof, poof, magic, get the yo-yos slinging, boom, boom, and then they go back and get them. And then when they get them, and then they're like, okay, well, then the Fae are like, we're very thankful that you did that, so you're welcome back, basically. You're welcome to come back to us. And, basically that was enough to make the deer person and their ex get back together. And now they can freely go from one way to another, which they couldn't before, but now they can, because there's that Stargate. That is the very powers and abilities of the deer person imbued into the world itself. So basically, from start to finish, what changed through the story is, well, one, basically that the deer person lost their immortality in a way. They lost their godly abilities, their fairy abilities, in exchange for this love, basically, that is allowed once every blue moon, by opening the portal. It's plugged, by the way. There's like a plug that plugs the worlds. It's like an invisible plug, that makes it so that the worlds aren't connected, except for the magician has the keys, so the magician can unplug it, whenever. But he does it once in a blue moon, probably for some magical reason. And that allows them to be together every once in a while. But other than that, pretty much the same. Everything's good. It's all good. So yeah, I think that ties everything up, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Peace.